try it for a while, but that was years ago. If you see me, if I see you, a part of me hopes that we do. No, say everything we wanted to. After all this time, I cut the tree down that we grew. You know, the one we carved our names into. Still I can't go back to the places we knew. 'Cause they ask me if I still think about you. Only all the time. Still think about you. All the time. Think about you. I still think about you. All the time. Only all the time. Think about you. All the time. Think about you. Think about you. Only all the time. My phone's on silent in case you call. If you see me, if I see you, a part of me hopes that we do. No, say everything we wanted to. After all this time, I cut the tree down that we grew. You know, the one we carved our names into. Still I can't go back to the places we knew. 'Cause they ask me if I still think about you. Only all the time. Still think about you. All the time. Think about you. I still think about you. All the time. Only all the time, 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 time. Only all the time. Only all the time. Only all the time. They ask me if I still think about you. Only all the time.
We are supersonic. Oh, we are supersonic. Oh, we are supersonic. Take my hand and fly away. We are supersonic. Take my hand and fly
Yeah, that's good. Cool. 1 2 1 2. Oh yeah, I can hear. Oh, so we're coming through the speaker.
Yeah.
Oh really? Don't really need to, do we? There's no one in here and it just feels weird unless, Jade, you want to come through a speaker. I don't care.
I've got my outside voice.
I was gonna say, I'll be loud. I'll be really loud.
Outside voice.
We're both loud, Jade and I.
Vasily.
Hey, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. You're trying to get away from that? Yeah. Sure. Where? Sure. The stage, yeah. Okay. I'm easy. I probably decide. I don't know. There you go. I just went with that because I was standing here. There you go.
The crew back together again.
Yeah, got the band back together.
Business at Ross.
No, not that way. Not that way. Yeah, true story.
And my husband face down on it. 5 years.
Probably a bit longer because we moved to Bali 5 years ago, and I knew for at least I was at your house at Piedmont at least a couple of New Years. So it must be it's like 7, 8 years. Yes, but that wasn't my first. That wasn't. Yeah. That wasn't the first thing, no. We did other stuff before that. Because it was Entourage more.
I did some on my post. I said we'll be live in about 15 minutes, so that was about 15 minutes. No, the post just before it.
Still sniffly, getting over this cold.
Yep. What number start? Okay, well, if I don't, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, go now and then I'll... Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming along to Startup Growing Bali. Now I know we had a short break in our Startup Grinds, but tonight I am so happy to welcome a very good friend of mine, Dan. Now my name is Steve Green. I am one of the facilitators and mentors here at Entrepreneur Resorts where we host the Startup Grinds. Now Dan and I met, we were just figuring out, it has to be about 6 years ago, maybe 7. Where we were part of an alumni and a business course in Australia. We were doing a course called what was it called? I've like totally blanked on it now. It was Scalable and Saleable, which is exactly what Dan's going to talk about tonight. So we met when he was running an allied health professionals business, a service-based business in Sydney, and we were sitting in this course, and this guy like stands up and he's like, "My name's Dan and I'm from Elevate." And I'm like, dude, I dead set pay your rent every month because I'm spending what we worked out today to be about $600 to $800 a week on trying to fix my broken body from playing football. Dan's like, "I love you, you're awesome." And he went through this process with Elevate of raising capital because he wanted to list it on the stock exchange, and so they were going through this big journey of how they wanted to acquire different practices, and he had to bring on a board, and he kind of went through this process and realized, maybe this isn't what my life's going to be. And then he's taken a turn and decided, what I really want to do, maybe he didn't say this, but is start a product-based business, be online, and live in Bali with my amazing woman. And then he's going to share with us how he's gone about building that business from scratch with no capital, these are the learnings from the last events, no debt, up to $5 million, and all of the trials and tribulations along that journey. So without further ado, Dan Carlin, please join me.
Yeah. Hey, Jade.
Hey, Dan. We've had a fun day today. We didn't actually get to go surfing today, but we're going to go surfing together tomorrow.
No way, it's 6 a.m. though. We'll be there. Oh.
So, Dan, can you fill in the pieces that I missed then?
Okay. It's a long story. You missed a few pieces. But yeah, that business back in the day was Elevate, which was a corporate health and wellbeing company where we went into large corporates, ran health and wellbeing programs, and then we had a clinic as a sort of follow-up place for people to see it through. So it was kind of like an end-to-end service. But I started that one when I was 30, had no idea what I was doing, like a lot of entrepreneurs on their first startups, and was all in. Sold my house, borrowed money from people, all of that kind of stuff. And it was a seriously wild ride. Went from zero to a couple of $1 million in the first year, went out and took on investors, raised capital, built a board, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And then it was just a roller coaster of up and downs for 5 or 6 years. until it nearly killed me, completely burnt me out. It's just fried. It was pretty ironic, really. Here I was running a health and wellbeing company, and I was struggling to hold it together. I was just cooked. And so, yeah.
Before we go into the rest of your story, I want to actually dive a little bit deeper on this because we've just run the Health Impact Awards for Entrepreneur Resorts, and we're going to be announcing the winner on Friday, which is actually tomorrow. And the key thing and the reason why Rory, who's been the driver behind that, has done it is he was a health practitioner who hit severe burnout as well. And we found there is just so many of these people building these businesses and spruiking all the stuff, but not living it. So I know your story and I know how deep that went. Would you walk the watchers through and the audience through what really happened and how did that affect you? And more importantly, how did that affect the choices you make now?
Yeah, it's kind of what a lot of, I think what a lot of entrepreneurs say after they've been through the real tough stuff is, in hindsight now, it was an excellent experience to go through because it's definitely given me really, really good learnings to going into the business that we have now. And I'm a better business person as a result. I have a better business as a result. And so that's all really good. But at the time, it was literally living hell. Like I lost, physically I was in pieces, mentally I was in pieces, emotionally, I was just absolutely fried. And I think it was just, I'm a super driven person, like a lot of entrepreneurs are, and I was just all in. And then when you bring in a board, I was this young guy and I had all these very experienced people around a table. I was very flattered to have these people sitting around a table with me, but they'd just point me and I'd just go for it, you know, like a red rag to a bull kind of thing. But doing that over and over and over and just being in it all the time and never having an outlet, never having a switch off, huge amounts of pressure, always taking such big risks and big jumps all the time, and then struggling to learn to catch up and all that kind of thing just definitely took its toll. And yeah, to the point where, I wasn't functioning. I had basically had to bring a CEO in to run the company for a while. Spent a couple of weeks in the fetal position, rocking back and forwards, going, what have I done to myself? You know, it's just a mess, absolute mess. But,
and what age was that? Was that before we had your 35th birthday?
Yep. So I started the business when I was 30, and by 33, I was pretty cooked. And the business was starting to go in a bit of a direction. The board wanted to go a slightly different direction than I did. I definitely didn't have the maturity as a business person to run a business of that size, and also the type of businesses was dealing with big corporates. There was a lot of governance, compliance, contracts. You're dealing with people's health, really, really quite serious in what we were getting into. So yeah, it was something that I sort of decided at that point that I loved business. I loved being an entrepreneur. I loved building stuff, but I didn't want to be doing that particular business. I needed to do something else. Yeah.
So, in hindsight, looking back, what do you think was the driver for you to bring on the board and to go after raising the capital? What sent you that direction from having the clinic?
Well, I was broke. So we built the clinic with so the very first clinic that I had. So first of all, I came from a personal trainer background before that. Started doing some speaking, saw this gap for this sort of idea of a lot of these companies are out there preaching health and well-being, but there was nowhere for the employees to go and actually, I guess, do anything about their health. So I had this idea that if we could run the corporate health program, then we could have people come into the clinic. It would be they'd actually get something out of it at the end of the day. So I decided I had to build a clinic, and I was going to get doctors, natural therapists, the full gamut of people all in the one place.
I bought them all.
Yeah. And so, you know, I basically, sold my apartment. I borrowed money, pulled together as much money as I could. I think it was about $500,000 Australian dollars to fit out a clinic in the middle of the CBD in Sydney. And
it was a good-looking clinic.
All that stuff, yeah. And it went pretty well. But what I didn't do was I had about 9 months worth of running expenses or money to run the business with. But by the time we got to the time of the doors opening, the fit out had blown out, all these other things had blown out. So essentially the doors open, I had no money. So, and then I had all these doctors with massive egos going, so Dan, where's my clients? And I was under that pressure. So I had to learn how to hustle pretty quick and get business in the door.
Nice. Is there any advice that you'd give to someone that's in a similar situation, maybe on how they do the company structure or the board structure because
I know the pain that you went through. The board almost pushed you out of your own
Yeah.
business at one stage, and that
Yeah.
I know how hard that was. What advice would you give to someone else that was in that situation? They've gone, okay, I need the cash, let's do it.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah. So I guess to sort of finish off on that last question of why I got the board, it was because I ended up in that situation where we were essentially broke. And I met someone who was sort of one of my first mentors in this particular business. And she was an amazing lady, very experienced. And she, she came in and gave me some advice, but she said to me, oh, why don't you just raise some capital? And I'm like, what do you mean? I was just clueless. I'd never heard of this raising capital before. And now it's kind of thrown around like it's just the thing you do. Oh, just do a seed round and then a B round and a Series A and all of this trendy kind of language around raising capital. Believe me, it's not that glamorous. And essentially, I was like, so how does that work? Well, we go and find some angel investors and So we went and did that, went and raised the capital. But it comes with some serious handcuffs because those investors want their money back. There has to be a timeline that's going to happen. Even though they don't have direct sort of operational control, they let me do what I wanted to do, but you got to get a result. And that pressure's pretty tough when I was just figuring out how to run this little clinic, and they were giving me huge targets. Like they were like, you're going to bring in consulting revenue, we're going to acquire 3 other clinics in different states, and I'm going, huh? It was full on, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did business with this lady as well, and she is a force to be reckoned with. So
Yeah.
I can see she's definitely a powerful woman and quite influential.
And it could be
Easy to be swept up
Yeah.
in the
dream.
the glory, and when you see someone that is that high-powered and influential, to want to follow footsteps or to trust. And if you don't know what you don't know, you can kind of get swept up. Did you do anything in terms of, was like those board of directors and the CEO and things like that, how did you have the shares set up with them? How did you keep controlling rights, or did you,
Yep.
I know in the end you kind of
Lost some of those.
but can you just walk us through that and what people might need to be aware of when
Setting up.
Yeah, so where this mentor came in, she was really great because she'd had a lot of experience with raising capital. So she was really good at creating a lot of value in essentially what was a tiny, tiny little business at the time. She could make it, she was very good at getting all of the sort of bigger value in it and what it would be value at years down the track. And then based on that future years, they do some fancy equations, and then that would give you sort of, okay, if you buy this many shares, you're going to get, you put this much money in to get this many shares. And it was pretty good. In the early days, you'd raise a few $100,000 and it'd only be a few percent of the business. And that was all pretty good. But as you go along, the need for raising more and more capital to grow faster and faster becomes bigger and bigger. And the chunks of shares that you sell down get bigger, and then you get diluted down. And that all works pretty well for the most part, but you can get caught out. I had a pretty awful experience, which was probably one of the major things that led to the complete burnout sort of towards the end for me, where the chairman actually on our board had brought a couple of other potential investors into the business at a time when we really needed to raise some more capital. And what they essentially did was these guys came into our board, acted as if they were best buddies, learnt the business inside out, and what I discovered later was they kept the money from the company until right at the end when the company was literally on its knees. We were nearly going to have to fold. And then they came in and made a terrible offer, but the business didn't really have a better choice. And so all of a sudden, I kind of got cornered, and my shares that were, I'd always been told stay above 50%. As long as you stay above 50, you've got the control. And I managed to stay up above 80 for the first couple of years. Then I got to, above 50. Then I got to the just above 50 mark. And then when all of this happened, it was like whoosh down to 20, control gone, got kicked off my own board. All this kind of stuff starts to happen. And it's tough because people that, these people that I was the one who bought into the business, these are people that I really looked up to, like seriously experienced people. And I kind of looked up to them for guidance. They invested their own cash into the business, and so I thought they were genuinely interested in working with me. And that seems to work when businesses are going well, but as soon as a business starts to struggle a bit, it can, you really realize what people are made of, I guess, and everyone starts acting in their own interest. And for me, it was particularly hard because the initial capital that I brought into the business was my friends, my family, people that invested $20,000, $30,000 each. And then when this sort of stuff happened, it threatened my friends and family losing everything. And I didn't care about what I'd put in or that I'd sold my house. At the end of the day, I was 33, 34 years old. I figured, who cares if I lose it all? I'll have another go. I've learned a lot. This has been my MBA. It's cool. So I was fine with losing it, but the burden of feeling like I was going to lose my friends and family's money, that was something that it still feels emotional now to talk about. That was one of the hardest things. So I'd probably never borrow money from family and friends again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that from most of the people that I speak to that have done that, that's normally their key takeaway, the thing that they say they regret the most, even when they get the money back, because of the pressure and the anxiety levels of having to perform for them, because it's not like just returning. It's one thing to have investors breathing down your throat, but it's another thing if, say, a family member or someone is struggling or whatever, and wanting to do right by them and wanting to do them proud, and that's when our significance level kicks in. We want to make sure that we're looking after everyone, and that can be really a tough thing. One thing I take definitely from that and from my own experience getting investors as well, I was lucky because we did do scalable and saleable. My investors were actually the people that taught this, and so they'd already taught me, and too late for Dan.
Yeah, I was past that point.
He graduated the year before me. How to set up the boards and make sure that we kept at least 51%, what happened at 70% with the rights and things like that. So when it came to negotiating for me, which is great because Pete's going to speak for you next month, it was like, okay, well, this is what you've taught me, so I'm not going to do anything different to that. So I'd say to people, depending on what country you're in, really understand where your rights are as a shareholder and a board member, and where the controlling factors come in, and what happens with the voting rights and distribution of the votes and the points when it comes to board meetings before you jump in. And just be aware of that up front. It's hard when you're on your knees.
Yeah.
But at least if you're aware what's going on, it might make it a little bit easier to understand. But
I would say just don't raise capital if you can help it. No, honestly, there's a lot of businesses need to do it. And there's my mic, I get that. But if you can do it without, it's really awesome having mentors. That's the part I loved about the board. The level of experience and people to guide you is fantastic. And I'm grateful for everyone that I worked with. Even the things that didn't work out, I'm still really grateful for that experience. But you don't need them to necessarily, you can go get mentors without them. There's a lot of great people that will work with you for not a lot of money either. There's loads of people that just love to do this stuff. Actually, something that I'd love to do later in my life is work with other entrepreneurs when you don't need the cash. There's plenty of people out there that don't do it for the money. And so they're the kind of people you want in your business. If you must raise capital, raise the absolute least amount that you have to, and then spend it really wisely, because it's very easy to allocate that cash for things, and then other emergencies come up, and it can end up getting soaked up in operating. And so probably the big lesson I had was we kept trying to grow too fast, and we ended up with this big, heavy management structure, which was expensive, rather than operating as a lean startup. And all of a sudden, we were having all these operational costs, and what was funding that was the capital raising. So rather than, for example, if we needed, say, $1 million to do something like acquire a clinic, you'd go out capital raising, you might only raise 200. Oh, it's not enough to build a clinic, what do we do with it? Oh, let's hire 3 more people that then don't perform, and then there's the money gone, and your shares have been diluted. So you've got to be really careful with when you take that money on. It's so precious, because you just see it as, it's someone else's cash, I can go and now invest, but those shares don't come back. Once you're diluted, you're diluted. So you do need to be careful, definitely. And if you can do it without, or get bank debt, if you can. Do something else, find other ways to get money. I can tell you a bit about that with the new business, but yeah.
I was going to get you to go into a little bit of what it feels like to have your baby stolen, because that's the harsh reality of what happened to you. Elevate was your baby. It was your passion, your heart and soul. I knew it, I saw it, and even when we were talking about today and where it is now, just walk us through that.
Yeah, look, it's funny. I don't hold a lot of ill feeling now. I sort of feel like I can look back on it I just turned 40 just a couple of weeks ago. So I sort of feel like, if it's been 5 or 6 years, I've been living in Bali for the last 5. I've got a wonderful wife. I've just had a little boy. We have a nice life, and the lessons that I had from that first business are just gold. Like I really am grateful for it. But at the time, it's to have a situation where, in particular this case with this chairman at the time, I really confided in this guy, and these guys really kind of, I felt like I was under their wing and I was protected, and I was almost in these kind of parent-like figures. And so when they come in and do a move like that, it just totally pulls the rug out from under your feet. You just think, who have I been working with? These people are just sharks and snakes. They knew that the money that they were taking, but they basically, their offer to the company, which was started out as we're investing $2 million for 30% of the company, the final offer was $1 for all the shares, and you and all your shareholders leave with nothing. So, and the reason why that happened is because, and I have to take responsibility as the CEO, the company was going way too aggressive, and we were basically trading while insolvent, which is, against the law. You can't do it. And I was just on that knife edge, and there was no room to come back from that. And these guys knew that. They knew they had me in a really vulnerable position. So I would never get myself in that sort of position now. But at that time, young, keen, risky, all that kind of stuff, I got caught out. But yeah, it was heartbreaking at the time. At the time, it was, I was literally in therapy for quite a long time and talking with various people and needing lots of support. And it nearly broke me. But, you come out of it. You get through it.
What do you think was the key things that did pull you out of it? Because I know how hard it was at the time and the depths of the struggle. What were the key things that
managed to pull you through in the end?
I think probably the biggest one was that the business and the board were going in a different direction. They decided they wanted to focus more in this way, which was kind of not what I set out to do at the start. So that made it a little bit easier for me to say, this isn't what I was wanting to do anyway now. I'm ready to go do something else. The other thing was I felt the scale. I've always had quite a big dream of wanting to scale something quite big, which is probably what gets me into trouble. But
dance man that puts it all on black?
Yeah.
Let's roll.
Yeah, many therapy sessions over my risky behaviour. None of them
work.
Yeah, but what were we just talking about? I can't even remember
What pulled you out?
Yeah, what pulled me out. And the other thing with that business was, because I was dealing with lots of doctors and therapists and people that were working in my clinic, what I found was that there was, I couldn't really control the process all the way through, because I could get people to come to the clinic, but once they were behind closed doors, unless those doctors and whatever had to do their job well, then that would sort of then fall back on me and the brand. And so I really struggled in that sort of environment. They just weren't, I'm quite big picture and think quite typical entrepreneur, big picture stuff, whereas doctors and practitioners thinking, this is how much I bill per hour and all I care about is filling up those hours. And the level of care for the patient wasn't there, and it kind of broke my heart. It wasn't what I was wanting it to go. So it made it easy for me to move away in that case. Mm-hmm. Also just because my health took such a massive hit, I was like, okay, let's think about what I want to do with my life here, because I was doing everything to the max. Work to the max, play to the max on the weekends. It was wild, very, very wild times. I didn't do anything slow. And so I needed a different way to go.
This is why we bonded, because we were balls to the wall and nothing at
Yeah,
all.
pretty much.
And my ex-husband, whenever we used to say that, was like, please stop saying that and definitely stop behaving that way, you two.
But walk me through the mental health side of things, because this is a common problem with super A-type personalities like ourselves.
Yeah,
and
we're all a bit nuts.
we're all a bit crazy. When you get down to those depths, though, what are some of the things that you did to rebalance yourself, and
how did you get out of that mindset and be ready to take on the next thing?
To be honest, Jade, I don't think I don't think you ever fully get out of it. So if I look at my own, the way I act now or live now, I still have my good and bad times. There'll be times when, and unfortunately I find I generally am quite tied to the business. If the business is doing well, I'm feeling great. If the business is sucking, then I'm feeling pretty down. And I've worked on that a lot to try and understand that I'm me, and the business is the business, and I'll be okay, and I'm resilient, even though the business is struggling. Trying to make that separation is like an ongoing thing for me. And so I think a lot of it's probably self-awareness, to be honest. Like I spent, after all that happened, I did go and work with a Gestalt therapist, which was cool, lovely older lady. And sometimes I'd go in there and I'd come out feeling worse than when I went in. I'm like, this therapy thing sucks. And, but other times you'd get these little nuggets. But what you'd get was this focused time where you were just focusing on you and not the business or your plan or your goal or your strategy or your social media plan or all the other crap that we deal with in business. It was actually just, okay, this is about me now because I've got to get myself together before the business is going to run well. And so actually 2 years, once a week for 2 years, I kind of went to this same lady and I went through this process, plus going to do courses and reading books and kind of dived in, learnt to meditate, started doing yoga, started surfing, stopped doing some of the bad habits that I was doing. Just a mix of things. But yeah, it goes in waves, to be honest. Like I guess later in this chat, I'll tell you about my most recent business crisis, which nearly killed this current business that I have. And that, again, nearly put me in the hole emotionally and all of that kind of stuff. And I found myself going, can't believe I'm here again. And this is only just a few months ago. So I think, I think a lot of us, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever, if you're out there pushing the limits and you're trying to grow and you're really, getting outside that comfort zone all the time, then yeah, it's going to take its toll. So I guess all you can do is try and be self-aware, learn how to be self-aware, learn knowing when to pull back a bit, when you need to go do something for yourself. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and be okay with that. So there's a lot of acceptance, probably a lot of it's maturity too. I've been running my own business since I was 20, just turned 40, so it takes time. It just does. Yeah.
I have to agree with you, because same journey.
Yeah.
First business at 21, also hit the burnout, also
Yeah.
been about the same time, really,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Maybe a couple of years behind you. Was there one book or one tool that you could recommend to people that might help you through it? Actually, we spoke about one today.
Yeah, I'll give you two things. So the one thing, I think I mentioned before with boards, I loved being around all these really sort of experienced people. But for me, having mentors has always been something that I found hugely valuable. And for me, having a mentor isn't like working with this one business coach on his program or whatever. The way that I find mentors is, what do I need right now in my business? So if for example, if it's capital raising, I'll go find someone who's the expert in that and I'll say, can I work with you? And I'll work with them for a period of time. When I don't need that anymore, I'm done. And then I might not have a coach for a while. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm all digital marketing. I need to really find someone who's just the ninja and that stuff. And then I'll partner with them. And so for me, on the business side, having mentors is the thing. But then on the personal side, the book we were talking about earlier, which was called The Daily Stoic. And it's 365 little bite-sized quotes from the great philosophers that were the Stoic philosophers. And I find I can just, in the start of the day and at the end of the day, I can read one page. It takes about a minute, and it generally just gets you out of the weeds of the business and just gets that big picture perspective. Things like I was talking about before. No matter what goes on externally, I'm cool, I'm grounded. I've been through lots of tough shit before. I'll get through this as well. It just gives you that little bit of like, okay, just ground for a second, because it's so easy to just get caught up, Even the business now where I work from home, I can still get completely overwhelmed, with the stuff that we deal with.
I've stayed at Dan's house a few times when I've visited Bali and not seen Dan. Mon and I have had a great time. But
Yeah.
maybe I could drag you out for a surf first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's in his office and doors are closed and he's in the grind.
Should we tell them about this business or what? The suspense. They're like, what's this business?
You. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
tell you the story. Yeah, okay. So when that business, the last business, was all kind of imploding, I didn't know which way to go, but I knew I wanted to do something else. My girlfriend at the time, Monica, who's now my wife, we got married here a couple of years ago. Yeah, and so Mon's Norwegian, and she moved over from Norway for me. We met in Spain on a holiday, and then she moved to Norway. Yeah, that's a holiday. It's a holiday. Yeah, this is give you an insight into the lifestyle I used to have. Yeah. So yeah, we met in Ibiza, party holiday, and then she ended up in Sydney for a few years. But that whole Sydney city corporate life definitely didn't suit Mon. And by then, I was completely cooked as well. And so we were kind of like, okay, where do we want to be? What type of thing do we want to do? And I knew I loved doing business, and I knew that was for me, building businesses. I want to keep doing that. But it had to be something that, one, I wanted to have a lot more control. I didn't want investors. I wanted to run it out of my own cash flow. I wanted something I could build at my own pace. And I wanted to be able to do it wherever I wanted. And so after the experience of having medical centers where it was a service business, you're selling people's time for dollars, I wanted to do something that would have more scale than that. And so it's pretty funny, actually. A webinar popped into my inbox. So this is like, 2013. Webinar comes in, and it was how to make $1 million on Amazon. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get sucked into this thing, but I'll watch it. Watch the thing. By the end, I got the credit card out. I bought this course. So I buy this How to Make Money on Amazon course. And I showed Monica and said, look, why don't we have a crack at this? And so we blindly kind of followed this course, and basically decided we were going to launch a product. And so this was in 2013 August. So Monica was still working full time. I was still in a nightmare situation with this company. But every night we'd have dinner, then we'd sit down and we'd do this course, and she'd go off and do her bit, and I'd go, okay, I'll work on this, you work on that. So we started working together straight away, which is probably pretty weird as well, because we'd never worked together. I didn't think we would.
And they'd been doing long-distance relationship for...
Yeah, we'd done all that for a couple of years before. But we ended up launching our first product in December of 2013. So it took us about 4 months to get the first product up on Amazon. And I would love to say it was skill, but we basically fluked it. We launched this product that was you've seen those Brita jugs or Brita pitchers. So it's like a water filter pitcher. And Monica had done the research, and we'd followed the steps of how to do the research and choose a product and all that kind of stuff. And Monica's the product guru, which we'll get to in a minute. So we launched this product. It started doing extremely well. And I'm like, sweet, this is our new business. How about we move to Bali? Monica goes, yep. And our theory was around this was we could stay in Sydney living in Bondi Beach in our little 2-bedroom tiny apartment, or we could move to Bali, live in a big house on the beach and do the same thing from there. So we're like, well, and I was looking for a way to get the hell away from our other business. So,
and Monica hates Sydney with passion.
Yeah, and she hated Sydney, yeah. So I went and talked to the board and said, hey, board, this is my date. And it was like 6 months later, it was March 2014. And so we went down this path of Amazon business building, which then pretty quickly became a water filtration brand, several products, doing a whole lot of stuff. And yeah, it kind of took off from there.
So before we go into the depths of that, tell me, what was the dream though? What was the life you thought you were coming to live in Bali?
Yeah, well, the idea was that definitely wasn't going to work as hard, so it's just going to put in a handful, because in the course they promise that you can set it up and run it on autopilot. You know how these online businesses that just run themselves, you make millions and sit back and drink margaritas?
And go surfing.
So not how it happens, but yeah, pretty much. I knew that I'd always work hard, but I definitely thought it would be more spread out, it would be at a slower pace, we would control the pace. And it's anything but that, probably because we went down that Amazon route. Amazon's grown, everyone knows Amazon has grown bananas, and we just weren't ready for that. It's like a wild ride. You just got to hang on, and it just, if you manage to get the right stuff and the right products and all that sort of stuff, it does really take off very quick, and it's hard to keep up with.
So from when they were telling me they were moving to Bali, especially Monica, we're moving to Bali, we're going to work a couple of hours a day, Dan's going to get his adrenals back on deck.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. This is also my recovery, yeah. Build a business while recovering. Yeah.
Dan's supposed to be in recovery right now, so he's supposed to be getting his adrenals back
back into auto. He's going to calm down. He's going to get balanced. They're going to have a nice, relaxed time. He's going to slowly build this, and it's going to have just enough money to live, and like we're going to be happy. And I'm like, I know, Dan. And at our own pace, and it's going to be like any minute Dan's mind's going to click and go, Dan pace. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens and still happening now, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we moved to Bali.
Yeah, moved to Bali, and the business went really quick. So that first product, and this is nuts, like the first product, I think it cost us less than $10,000 to get into the game. That was finding a product, getting samples, creating that first product. And this was when it was all about white label, where essentially you're going and finding a product from a manufacturer in China. It's already their product, it's finished. All you're doing is essentially putting it in your own box with your own logo on it, and hey, this is my product now. And that's how it sort of started. Doesn't really work like that anymore. It's way too competitive out there. You can't do it like that anymore. But that first product for us went from 0 to 50K a month in like 5 months. So it's like crazy. I'm just going, what? How does this work? 50K a month in 5 months? Like that scale was just crazy. And without really doing too much aggressive marketing, it was just, I was just figuring it out as we went along. So then we made a really good mistake, which was, if this is working for us, we should just launch 6 more products, all in different categories, and we should be able to do 6 times 50K within like another 6 months. That's 300K a month. Great, let's do it. So we launched all of these products, and pretty much they all tanked. And we realized that the hot thing for us that was working was the water filtration thing, and that's when we really got focused on the brand. But that came about a year in, so in 2015. And as soon as we made that choice, which was to just focus on this one sub-niche, so we weren't even on water filters all over. It was sort of focused on alkaline water, but also putting in minerals to the water and removing chemicals and fluoride and chlorine. And so it was kind of this whole healthy water sub-niche, and I guess a bit more premium brand, a lot better than your Britas and that sort of stuff. Just a lot more to it. Yeah.
Beautiful. So then, how did you go into from white labeling to holy shit? Let's design and make and research and create our own crazy, amazing.
Yeah. So I think. So this is where Monica's, my wife's genius, sort of comes in. She's our product development expert. So Monica just really loves to go down the rabbit hole with research for anything. She just goes into it. So she basically is the person who comes up with the product idea. She'll float it by me, then I'll go and check whether there's a market for it and do all the sort of financial metric stuff that she hates, and the opportunity, and I'll do all of the risk analysis and all of that. And she just kind of will create this product. So she'll work with our suppliers, and now she's become a filter material expert, and she works with labs and does certifications. And then we started doing industrial design, where we create our own molds, and so then patenting products and all of that stuff. So it went from this kind of white label model to essentially our own brand, our own products that are patent protected, and all of that kind of stuff.
And how long was that journey from first listing to we've got our own products that we're manufacturing, we've got patents, we're doing all of the things?
It happened really fast, and this is where probably me wanting to grow too quick always comes in. I just wanted to push, and Amazon was this sort of open space that was kind of like so much going on and so exciting, and you sort of feel like we've got to dominate now, so you're trying to like go as hard as you can, and it's pretty competitive out there, and I love.
And Dan's not competitive.
Yeah, I'm a little bit competitive, and so yeah, it only took us probably about a year to go from that one water product to sort of 6, then 12, and so now we have about 30 in the range, and we sort of launch 1 or 2 products every sort of maybe 6 a year, sort of every couple of months we'll launch a product. But yeah, the speed that it grew is just pretty insane.
And talk us through the growth, because remembering you got burnt by raising capital before, so this time round he wasn't going to do that. So how did you fund it? What was the thinking behind it, and how hard has it been to be able to keep that pace? Because it's one thing to be generating the turnover, but getting your own factories, manufacturing, patenting, etc. It's bloody expensive, right?
Yeah. Okay. where do I even start with this one? It's such a loaded question. Well, growing out of your own cash flow is okay when the business grows at a bit of a slower pace. But the problem you have with Amazon, because of the way it worked for us, you would launch a product, and because we only had a little bit of money, we could only buy, let's say, 500 units. You get that product there. Within a month, it starts selling 10 units a day. You discover, wow, I've only got 40 days worth of stock. I've got to order again. But you're still waiting for the money from the first ones to come back from Amazon. So you're out there placing your next order with your supplier. And then their production time, at that time, it used to only be about 20 days to produce an order. And that'd be about 3 weeks. But then you'd have 4 weeks on a boat to get to the US and be like, okay, so can't do that, so I'll put on a plane. But air freight versus sea freight is 5 times more expensive. So you find yourself in this loop of just constantly investing the money quicker than you can make it, and you don't want to slow down the sales, so your ads start working well on Amazon and your sales start growing and growing, and the last thing you want to do is slow that down. So you're on a high because that's going good, but then you're trying to not only grow, keep up with the existing products, we're launching new products, which also require investment, and so it's pretty tough. You basically end up spending, and we're still in this position now. We're actually 5 years in, and we still are at that stage where you're kind of all in. Your cash flow, you know, some days there's a lot of money in the bank account, and other times there's nothing, and you're just waiting for that next thing to come in to be able to pay these next invoices. And you get better at it. Things get harder though, because as you get bigger and bigger and you order more, manufacturers need longer to produce stuff. And then because we're doing our own molds and things, that design process can take longer. And so everything gets longer and longer and longer, and the amount of money gets bigger and bigger and bigger as well. So, you know, what used to be, you know, we'd have a couple of pallets in a container shed with others, we now ship multiple 40-foot containers a month to US, UK, Canada. You know, it's huge to keep up with that. Yeah.
I think one of the common misconceptions for people is they think, oh yeah, sell stuff on Amazon and they hold it in their warehouse and they ship it for you, so it's like easy, right? But they don't think about what happens when one of your containers gets held up in customs or your packaging goes to shit, and you've had these sorts of situations happen to you.
It's been the steepest learning curve ever. The last business was an amazingly steep learning curve as well, but this one, it's a pretty exciting idea to be able to sell globally, and Amazon does give you, you know, it is such an amazing opportunity because you can do that so quickly, but it's pretty hard in reality to actually make it work. There's constant changes out there. So yeah, things like warehousing, yes, you can use Amazon's warehousing, but Amazon's costs have gone up and up and up and up as well. So actually using their warehousing doesn't work. And one of the things they did in warehousing was if you have inventory over a certain time, like 6 months in their warehouse, they'll charge you long-term storage fees because they don't want to have it just sitting there. They're running out of space, basically. They can't build warehouses quick enough. And so it started getting too expensive to have everything at Amazon. So we now have our own warehouses that are our hub, and it also allows us to have the inventory closer to Amazon because you'd always, you'd project your inventory out, and you might be selling 5 units a day, but all of a sudden a product that's selling 5 units a day can be selling 30 units a day. So you thought you had 120 days, now you've got 25, and if you run out on stock, your rankings go through the floor. It's really hard to kind of get that working.
Because I know you, I know the anxiety levels, but can anybody feel what sort of anxiety that would be? Like, Jody can.
I can see your face going, like you're constantly on that edge, like, holy shit, now I've only got 25 days, it takes 7 weeks to get there, and I've only got enough money to buy, like, half the stock that I need, how do I get the rest in there, and then what if it gets caught by customs, and what if the ships don't get there, and it's like, and that's what Dan lives every day.
Yeah. And you get... You got to learn and adapt real fast. Like in any startup, you constantly learn, pivot, evolve, change, adapt, get better, learn. And that's kind of what it was like with, what it has been like and still is with this business. But I don't even know how to describe it, but it's kind of like on steroids when you're dealing with it on a global level. Because one of the things that's happening now out there in e-commerce everywhere is I think governments all over the world are trying to figure out how to tax online sellers just as one thing. And up until now, it's been pretty difficult. But for countries to sort of chase this kind of stuff, and because people have all sorts of interesting structures like we have, which we can talk about in a minute. And so, but you get stuck in things. I'll give you a little example. Just recently, Amazon Germany. Germany decided to change the law and said everyone that sells on Amazon Germany must have a VAT certificate for Germany, so a tax certificate for Germany. But the law states that unless you sell over $100,000 euros per year in that country, you can actually ship your stuff from the UK. So that was kind of what we were doing. We were shipping things from the UK to Germany, staying under the 100,000 euros a year in that country. We're now going over that because the business has grown, but at that time. And so what happened was one day they just turned off our account. You get an email saying, we've shut down your account, you need to provide a tax certificate. And our account in Germany remained shut down for, I think it was about 6 weeks while I fought them. And in the end, they said, okay, just sign a declaration that says, you don't actually need a tax certificate. So I did that and we were back up and running. But in the meantime, we'd lost like a couple €100,000 in sales. I had inventory sitting around. We lost all our rankings, So stuff like that happens common. It's very common. Amazon shoot first and ask later.
Yes.
That's how it works.
I'm going to come to our interesting setup later. But this is a nice segue into what happens when you put all of your eggs into one basket, or in this case, one Amazon cart.
Yeah. So this is the dilemma you have. Once you start on the Amazon thing, pretty much nothing else touches it. These guys, it's so massive out there, and it's so big, it's very hard to put your time and effort into other channels that are non-Amazon channels and get a big enough result out of it, because you always compare everything to Amazon. Especially with the journey we've had, because the numbers are so huge. So to put in perspective, we sell about 10,000 units of product a month. So you're hundreds of orders a day. You try and do that on your own Shopify store, no chance. Even if you're a gun at your online marketing, to get even a fraction of the traffic that Amazon have on their site already, all you have to learn on Amazon is how to find the market. The market's already there. The people are there. It's just what do they want? Put it in front of them. They buy it. It's pretty much that simple. On, that's sort of the crux of it. But on your own site, you've got to get that cold traffic, nurture it, get them to buy, get them to come back. All of that stuff, build their trust. And in particular in the US, people just trust Amazon now. That's where everyone goes. So I've actually been trying, because we actually had our ass handed to us by Amazon late last year. Which I can tell you about. So many of these ups and down stories. But essentially, we're really working on building a multi-channel brand where so now we have an affiliate program, we sell wholesale deals, we do retail stuff, we sell on other platforms like eBay and Walmart. We do have our own Shopify store that is doing quite well, but all of those other things are still a fraction of Amazon. It's really hard to build out those other channels. But having everything all in one basket is a shocker, especially with Amazon, because we've grown so fast, you just don't have much of a buffer ever. So if something happens, it can nearly take you down very quickly. And maybe if you had more discipline than me and were okay to go slower than I am, and maybe you could do it a bit differently. But yeah, it's hard. It's addictive. It's like a drug. It's
He might do the risk analysis, but he does the risk analysis and puts it all in black.
Do the risk analysis, then do it anyway.
Then do it anyway. Build the wings on the way down, man, for sure. So what happens when Amazon turns your card upside down and stamps on it? Can we get Dan's stiff drink right now?
No.
Is it straight rum?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm off the booze tonight. But you don't really have a choice, right? So for Monica and I, all of our money is in our inventory, because that's the big thing with a physical products business. Your biggest cost isn't like staff, like it would be in a service business. It's product, and it's this constant need for more and more and more and more product, and you want to have more and more lead time and you want to have more in stock so that you never run out. And so you're trying to play as a bigger business quite quickly. And so that means you have all your money tied up. But if something happens where you can't sell that inventory and your channel is Amazon, and Amazon can turn that off in a heartbeat, it can put a lot of pressure. That's for sure. You want me to tell you what happened just recently?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Late last year, we'd been having a very, very good year. So to give you an idea of growth, 2016, we did about 750,000 US in sales for the year. 2017 jumped from 750 to 3 million. 2018 went to 4.7. So this is like, we're talking seriously big jumps on already big numbers. And then last year, we were meant to hit this sort of 5 million mark was my target. And so we were looking good. And we were all lined up around late November last year for the big weekend is the Thanksgiving weekend, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's this huge event on Amazon in particular. So we decided we were going to really knock it out the park that year. So we had all of our products doing extremely well. I'd done a lot of marketing to get them ranked perfectly. So when that big traffic turned on, we were going to dominate. And then I launched 6 more products 4 weeks before. And to launch those 6 products took all the money we had and some. So I put money on credit cards, like all in again. This is an all in black kind of thing. Probably should have.
Dan went from we're not doing anything on debt and we're using our own cash to fuck it, let's go all in.
Yeah, just because I always back myself. It's a big risk, but it is calculated, believe it or not. And so we launched these products. They took off. We had a killer weekend. We'd ordered tons of inventory because you sell a lot more across that Christmas period. And for us, because we're a health business, in January, everyone's wanting to be healthy. We kill it in January as well. So we ordered up big time. And then you have Chinese New Year in February. So you order about 5 or 6 months worth of stock. So we're talking, maybe, I don't know, let's say $1 million worth of stock, a lot of money. And I had all this inventory on the way. I was in Costa Rica at the time.
Touch on that in a minute.
Yeah, I was going across on a car ferry. Monica and I were sitting there enjoying the scenery, talking about how great this whole online lifestyle is. And my phone got 16 notifications, one after the other. Ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, what the heck's this? I have a look, and I'm getting these messages from Amazon saying 16 of my products have now been classed as pesticide products, and you can no longer sell them. And I'm
Do you remember what he sells?
This is water filters.
Water filters.
And I'm like,
That we drink out of.
and I'm like, huh? How does this even work? And so I'm sitting on this car ferry, just baffled by these messages. Anyway, we get to the other side. I call Amazon, and they're like, "Oh, it must just be a mistake." And I'm well, how about turn my listings back on, because this is the 4 biggest weeks of the year. I got $1 million of inventory at your warehouses. Please turn us back on. And they're like, yeah, look, we need to just talk with this team and check this out. And typical Amazon style, it's very hard to get to the right people, and they have all of these little gates, and they don't communicate well, because Amazon have also grown too fast. We're struggling to keep up with them, but they're struggling to keep up with themselves, I think. And anyway, what happened was it took us a couple of months. We lost all of December, all of January. We have 24 products at the time, and 16 are gone, and all of our top sellers were in that 16, of course. They were the top 16. And what ended up happening was a federal regulator, the EPA, had come down hard on Amazon about products that were making claims to remove things like bacteria and viruses and things. Selling water filters, we make those claims because our filters do that stuff. But the EPA had created a new rule that said any product that claims this must be certified with us and pay us a bunch of money to be able to say this. But they basically announced that and then told Amazon, anyone who's making those claims, turn them off. So there's no pre-warning, no chance to fix it, nothing. So overnight, 16 of our products got taken down, and pretty much we were told that we could never sell those again. And so basically what that did sent me down the hole, first of all. I was like, we're not going to survive this. And here we are now, it's 9 months later since that happened, and we've rebuilt the business, which means I feel really proud that we actually do have a strong brand. It's not just an Amazon business, which is something that I was always very conscious of. I didn't want to just have that. So we've managed to rebuild, but it was full on. We lost about $2 million in sales, and it cost about $500,000 to get back to where we were in pure straight up investment. And so yeah, it's it really hurts if the beast decides to turn you off. It's it's
Yeah.
tough.
So a few things that we were talking about and what I've taken out of it is to make sure you're thinking about how strong your brand is, so that if someone pulls the rug from under you, you've still got your brand to stand on, and making sure you are diversifying your risk, even if it's in the little spaces.
Yeah.
At least you've got some cash flow still coming, and it probably would have been easier for you if you had looked at those channels a little bit earlier, rather than just being all in
For sure.
on Amazon.
Yeah.
I know that did send you down the rabbit hole, and you had a whole lot of heartache, and these have been the 9 months that have been the hardest of your life, even harder than what went through with Sydney. And the question I didn't ask you today, when I was going to ask you, was, is it all worth it?
Yeah, it's so worth it. Everyone asks me, what am I going to do next? Because my attitude's always, I've always wanted to build businesses to have an exit. So the last one was planning to list. This one we're going to sell. So I know I love to build them and sell them. I don't really want to operate them for 20 years. It's just not my thing. And so already I'm thinking about the next business. So yes, it's totally worth it. I love the learnings.
Why not answer the same?
I think Monica would do it too, because we do have a great lifestyle. We do love the way we live. I get to, Mon and I do have, even though we work hard, we have a lot of freedom. We can do work when we like. It is flexible. Now with a baby boy, she can be a mum. I'm still getting the work done. We've now got a great team. I've definitely grown as an entrepreneur. And I think probably, if anything, those lessons along the way, I think will guide you into the next business. So for me, I know there's things I'll do differently. And this last experience that I just went through, some biggest lessons of all, because, at the same time, it was like the triple whammy. When we got those notices that was happening in the business, the same week I found out that my mum was terminally ill. She only lasted 3 weeks after that from the diagnosis, died on New Year's Eve. Monica was pregnant at the exact same time. That was a complete surprise. We didn't plan it. So my whole life just went upside down at that time. And so the learnings that have come out of that now, it's good. Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing businesses, but I feel like I'm going to do them smarter. I feel like, yeah, I am learning.
And one of those smarter things is what led you to be on that car carrier to Panama.
Yeah.
So where are you a resident?
Yeah, so I guess this is something that it's become a bit of a passion of mine. It's a bit of a nerdy topic, but one of the things that we discovered really early on with Amazon was, we were an Australian company when we started. I'm an Aussie. Monica became a permanent resident of Australia. So we're essentially tax residents of Australia. And what happened was, as the business started to grow and make some serious money, we realized that, wow, we got to pay a lot of tax in Australia. So part of the moving abroad thing...
And they weren't selling in Australia?
No, we had no business in Australia at all, and we weren't living there, so we were feeling a bit unjust in having to pay the sort of taxes that we were paying in Australia. So essentially, what I've spent a lot of time on is learning how to, just build a structure that works for your business, personally, where you live and all that kind of thing. And so I wish I knew the knowledge I had now and could set up a business that way. But to give you just an example would be, it's good to set up your company in a country that's got territorial tax rules, which essentially means they only charge you company tax or profits tax on the profit you earn in that country. So in our case, we're a Hong Kong company, but we don't do any business at all in Hong Kong. And so essentially what that means is you have a very, very low tax position. But then you need to figure out what to do with your personal situation, because just because your company's no tax, if you're the owner of the company, then the profits essentially flow through to you. So where do you pay tax? And so I guess the thing, really, this is for people that are wanting to operate a business not in their home country where they're from. So if you want to do the digital nomad thing, or if you want to operate a business in a foreign country, setting up a structure that works for you personally and business-wise, and not just from a tax perspective. There's a whole lot of reasons. For example, for us here in Indonesia, the types of visa that you're on does matter, and making sure that you are doing the right things in a country like this is important.
So you've got a company in Hong Kong?
So we're a Hong Kong company,
Bali.
live in Bali. We have a representative office of our Hong Kong company here so that we can explore business opportunities here, which also means we have a visa that means we can be pretty free here. We're now residents of Panama rather than here. We have a US company set up because the intention is to sell the company at some point, and knowing the buyers from the US, in the US they've got this awesome thing called SBA funding where the government or the banks will actually lend you 90% of whatever you want to borrow to get a business. So let's say you want to buy a business worth $5 million, you only need 500 down. And in Australia and a lot of countries around the world, you cannot borrow that kind of money to buy a business. In the US, it happens all day long. But they only lend to US assets. So I've just spent the last year building a structure where we've got a US LLC that feeds into our Hong Kong parent, and a way to get the tax out of the US, but a way to add it back in as profit later so we can get the valuation. And it's all quite complex, this stuff. And so I think if you're going to do it though, you do need to go and get like some seriously good advice. And it's hard to find people that know outside their own jurisdiction. So our lawyer in Hong Kong has no idea about the US guys. And if you ask the US accountant about what I'm doing personally in Australia, they're clueless. So you've sort of got to try and figure out a way to make that work. But if you can get it right, and it does take some time, you can legitimately live anywhere you want with a relatively low tax position, all by the book. You know, it can be done. You don't have to be dodging it and doing all this sort of stuff. Everyone thinks they have to dodge taxes. It's not about that. I'm not anti-tax, but definitely tax minimization for sure.
Yeah. And one of the key things that we took out of that conversation was that do it upfront. Like if you have a rough idea that this is the lifestyle you want to live, it's so much easier for you to get that structure set up before you're turning over $5 million a year.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
Right?
Especially if you're changing the ownership structure of the company. So you can't just say, well, I'm an Australian company today, and now tomorrow we're our Hong Kong company. No, you actually need to sell this entity to that, or the assets of this one to this one. You have to pay tax in Australia because you sold a business. Then you can start operating over here. And so you do have to do things the right way if you want to do it the right way, of course. But yeah, it is easier. The earlier you get that right, so think about where your business is going to be in 5 years and shoot for the stars, because it can take off. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't take off, hey, you've got a good structure and you don't make any money, but hey, you got a good structure and you learned something.
It's a little bit easier than something like 50 grand deep that you were to get it set up.
Yeah, it's hard to do later. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. We're coming close to our time, Dan. So
Mhm.
what parting knowledge would you like to leave people that are going from startup to scale up? Because we talked about the different phases of entrepreneur, right? So
Yeah.
the person you are at startup is different to the person you are at scale up to go sales. So can you just give us a couple of your parting wisdoms for those different phases and things for them to avoid or tools that they could use?
Sure. When you're in that startup phase, right at the start, you're so pumped about the idea. You're almost drunk on your own idea that this is like gonna rock no matter what anyone says. And it's kind of good that you actually start out like that, because you probably wouldn't start a business if you didn't have that kind of just chutzpah to start with. You just go for it. But you do need to sort of mature as a business person pretty quick to actually succeed and make it successful long term. So, for example, to start with, there's a heck of a lot of doing, because generally you don't have a lot of money to start. So that means you're the one that's out there got to do a lot of the hustle. You have to do a lot of your own marketing. You got to do a lot of your own sales. You got to do a lot of your own operations. You've got to manage your books. You've got to sort of do a bit of everything. But then as things go on, you can't be the one doing the stuff, because if you're in the weeds all the time, you then can't be focused on the direction of the business or the scale or things like that. Pretty early on, I think you need to learn numbers. I wasn't someone who was focused on numbers in any way. Now I have no idea what I would do without, I have 2 full-time accountants in my team now, because we deal in about 7 different currencies. We have money flowing through all different bank accounts all over the world. To put all that together and then manage the inventory and payment terms, and so we got a lot of financial rigor around our business now to make it operate. And also on the marketing side, it's very easy to get excited about just growing that top line. Yeah, my sales are growing, and even we did it here. Dan's got a business that turns over $5 million a year. Who cares if it doesn't make you any profits? And so actually learning how to have a margin and keep it which is another part of not growing too fast. So I guess the real thing, the real takeaway is, as you grow as an entrepreneur, make sure you're taking the time out of the business to figure out what you need next to keep leading the business successfully, rather than just getting caught in the craziness of this thing that is a startup. So it's just pulling yourself out a bit and just going, all right, what's the next step? Taking time to plan, really. Yeah.
And taking some self-care time too.
Yeah, not burning out.
Not burning out. Excellent. Thank you.
Cool, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This has been awesome. What's been even more amazing for me is it's allowed me to connect with Dan before today and before tonight to get the backstory to understand. And it's really funny, right? We're friends. We've been friends for 6 years. We've been through each other's businesses. We've cried on each other's shoulders. We've had each other's 35th and 40th together. But sometimes we don't take the time to really ask the questions. And what I'd really be saying to you guys as entrepreneurs and people that are going into this, take the time to stop and ask your friends, what are they going through? Where are they at? How can you not only help each other, like go through the mental health side of things, but where can you learn from each other? I'm like I know a lot of what Dan does. I sit in his house while he's doing the stuff and I've been around it, but the last 9 months we've both been, well, when I'm in Bali, you've been
Yeah.
on a boat in Panama, and when I'm on a boat in Croatia, you're in Bali, and we've missed the catching up, and I felt like as a friend, I've let this friendship down, this team down for not reaching out and had no idea of some of the shit that they've been through. So take the time to like reach out to your friends and see how they're going and touch base and support each other, because you never know who needs a hand when, and you never know when you can help each other out, and like someone
Sure.
can throw them a lifeline or just drag them out of the bushes. So I've been so grateful for this and the learnings I've got from you from this experience, and the things I was thinking about with, okay, I'm going into my next stage of business. Actually, none of my clients are in Australia, and I've been in Australia for like 8 weeks this year. Why do I have an Australian company? Why am I paying tax in Australia? What do I need to do? I need a mentor like Dan.
Yeah.
Really, I'm so grateful, and I know that everyone would have got so much value out of you today. So
Cool.
thanks so much for
Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody. It was great. You got 11 seconds. You can ask me a question though if you have one. You can if you like, I don't care. Did you have a question? An actual? Yes, there's question. You don't have to put the cameras on, but did you have a question there? Yeah, don't worry, that's cool. No, we've gone over. It's pretty hard once you get me talking as well, so yeah. No, yeah. No, there's so much that you can cover, so much stuff. Yeah, no, please. No, ask a question, it's good.